Hi there, this is Sonia from Your Vegan Guide, and today what I'd like to talk about is 3 tips for creating a very powerful mindset to help you with any life change that you might want, but specifically to go vegan. But these tips can definitely be powerful in any type of change that you may be trying to make. My first tip is really to be coachable, but not gullible. And what do I mean by this? Let me give you an example from an incident that happened to me yesterday. I was crossing the street or waiting to cross a very busy road, and a driver basically stopped, even though it was not his right of way, to let me cross. But, you know, the problem for me was there were multiple lanes of traffic, and that only works if everybody stops, which is kind of why I'm a big believer in actually just obeying the traffic laws. But the driver was really frustrated that I wasn't moving. I was just standing my ground, waiting for my green light, essentially. But he stopped anyways, and other cars just kept zooming on by in the other lanes. And he was so mad at me for not crossing the street. Well, guess what? Once I get past his lane and I try to cross the street, I'm dead. Even if I were to step in front of him, other cars behind him could get frustrated, move around him, and get me. So what is the lesson there? It is sometimes that actually happens to us in real life. We get advice from people. They're very well-meaning, and they think there's no logical reason why you shouldn't follow what they're saying. But you have your own circumstances, and you know why you can't do something. So in that case, it would not be good to follow the advice. And a lot of people, I see on the streets, somebody lets them go, they start walking, they think that that person has everything covered and is somehow, if they're saying to go, it must be okay. It's my pet peeve in traffic. Please, if you're a driver, don't do that. But anyways, back to the point. You want to be coachable, but not gullible. And we are, as human beings, so open to suggestion that it's worth kind of thinking about that and how that can work for you and against you. If you are too open to suggestion, you can actually put yourself in a great deal of danger. What somebody says might make a lot of sense to you, and you think they've already achieved your goal. Like for me, and I even mean in anything that I might say in any future videos, that I know what I'm doing because I'm already vegan and that's what you're trying to achieve. There may be something that just doesn't work for you or doesn't work for you at this time for whatever reason. So I would say you need to take advice with a grain of salt and evaluate it based on your own circumstance. I have a great example of this from a couple of years ago too, that I'm still living with the consequences because I'm a very open person. I'm very coachable, but at the extreme that can be kind of a bad thing. I was at a raw food potluck, and there was a very athletic person there who owns his own gym of some sort, and he was talking about front strike running. And I've never been a runner. I have flat feet. I have some knee problems and that type of thing. But he was talking it up to the point where I was a believer, and I thought, oh my goodness, if I just get these minimal shoes and that type of thing, it sounds great. Because I specifically said to him, well, I have flat feet. And he said, oh, it's even better for you then. And for whatever reason, I drank the Kool-Aid, and now I still have foot problems. It's kind of worth thinking about on the other side too when you're giving advice. Are you somebody of authority, and might somebody, follow what you're saying and things like that? Of course, I take full responsibility, but I also come from kind of the perspective that, yes, we are 100% responsible for the decisions we make, but we're also very easily influenced. If we weren't, there wouldn't be billions of dollars spent on advertising and that type of thing. And I know I'm easily influenced. I mean, I can actually, do self-hypnosis pretty easily, and, I'm very suggestible. And on the good side of that, though, that means I'm coachable. So let me talk about the positive now. It is very important that if you want to make any life change, including perhaps even going vegan, that you be open to information that other people have. Because other people before you have achieved something that you want to achieve. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can get a lot of important clues from what other people have done and what's worked for them. Although, of course, you always have to put it through the filter of your life circumstances are not the same as theirs. So being coachable is something that I have observed in just about every successful person I've seen. I look at some of my favorite bloggers and people who are big on YouTube, people I've followed to get great advice on raw foods, vegan, health, and that type of thing. And one thing that is universally true is it is very clear whether they're citing sources directly or just assimilating information into their own message, is that they have studied the game and they know what's going on. They have definitely sought advice from other people and sought information from other people and taken the good parts and turned it into, part of their game plan. On the other hand, I've seen people along my journey that just will not be open to taking any kind of suggestions from anyone else. They're not open to the fact that maybe they don't know everything and maybe they could learn something from someone. So the people that I know who are very successful know how to follow and know how to lead. Because sometimes you just gotta, give another perspective some real consideration and try it, even if it stretches what your world has been about since childhood or what you believe to be absolutely true. You got to kind of test those limits. So again, I can't overemphasize how important it is to be coachable and open to new ideas, and at the same time, really test them against what is true in your life. And, as it relates to the vegan diet, for example, there's no question that if you go more towards, giving up dairy and meat and that type of thing, you're very likely to improve your life tremendously. I mean, giving up those things tremendously impacted my health positively. Getting rid of dairy, I got rid of all sorts of congestion, and just my digestive system worked so much better. Getting meat out of the picture. And really, one of the best health benefits that I've achieved is that I rarely, if ever, get sick. I mean, yeah, okay, I get sick, but it's not like before. I mean, it's few, far between, and definitely less intense when I get sick. I get over it quite quickly. And it's a huge difference. It's startlingly large. It's not like something that I sort of notice gradually over time. It's like when I didn't even give up dairy altogether at first. I just gave it up. Didn't purchase it, bring it in the house, didn't ever eat it in big quantities. So scaling it way back, but still eating a little bit, I achieved such huge health benefits. And, it is kind of frustrating sometimes when I see, people really suffering. They've got migraines or they got real congestion or something like that. And I can see the relationship between their diet and, the problems that they're experiencing health-wise. But, again, it doesn't really help to push my ideas on someone, because sometimes you got to figure it out your own way. I can be there and offer other options or tell people what has worked for me. But, people got to be coachable and open to the possibility of trying it, and open to maybe there is that connection between, that cheeseburger I ate and the fact that I feel like shit right now. And trust me, there probably is. So, but the other thing too is people have all sorts of fears about going vegan. Like, well, you know, where do I get my protein and that type of thing. And you can actually, you know, stop getting certain nutrients that are important when you go vegan if you don't know what you're doing. But it's still a good idea. And it's a good idea to research along the way to see what those things that you're going to have to compensate for are. Like say you give up seafood, you're no longer eating fish, and that's a big source of omega-3s, and you don't replace it with something. Well, you know, eventually that could end up being problematic. But I don't think it's a reason to really continue eating fish because the alternative is so much healthier for you, and there's an easy alternative. You could just replace it with foods that have omega-3s. You know, I love jackfruit and I love cherimoya, and, you know, I was so happy to find out they're both high in omega-3. So as you start experimenting with more foods, you can get that. But, you know, a more commonly known source of omega-3s is flax seeds. So it's pretty easy to replace that. And I mean, the analogy for me is you could certainly be getting certain nutrients from meat and dairy, but they're usually pretty easily replaced somewhere else. And I mean, the analogy for me would be, I might find that there are bananas in a dumpster of yucky, disgusting garbage. And I know there's a regular source of them because for whatever reason, some store gets rid of their produce and throws it in the dumpster. So I could go dumpster diving and get my bananas that way. And that's a good source for me to get what I need, get my potassium and things like that. But I don't want to do that. I can just go to the store and buy some bananas that, you know, aren't in the garbage. So I don't really need to go to animal flesh to get my nutrients when I educate myself about how to get them elsewhere. Because sure, I may be getting the omega-3 through the fish, but I'm also getting all sorts of other shit that I don't want. You know, fish nowadays, you know, what about those mercury levels and that type of thing? So, and also somehow I find fish so dehydrating. It's like I need to drink a lot more water when I have that kind of food. And believe me, the health improvement from giving that all up is tremendous. So again, of course, don't take anything I say as the gospel truth. You know, go research it, read the China study, that kind of thing. So again, be coachable but not gullible. Check the information out. And actually that really leads into my second tip, which is to really do your research, but also maintain balance. Because we can get, you know, sometimes when I make a life change, I'm going to get so excited about it and so obsessive about the information. And that's great. That wonderful sense of excitement keeps me researching, keeps me looking at blogs and reading books and interacting with people and asking questions. And that's all wonderful when it's fun. But when it gets to be an obsession, that can be a problem because there's so much more to health and, you know, benefiting the planet than obsessing on being perfect with any kind of change that you want to make. So you definitely want to do your research, you know, go to many different sources, not just one source. I know there are some experts out there that say, you know, don't go get your information all over the place because, you know, you just won't be consistent and that type of thing. But, you know, I think in this day and age, there's so much that we don't know. It's better to go and explore, do your research, read the China study, but maintain balance with it because there's other important aspects of health. You need to get enough sleep. You need to get enough exercise. Make sure you're fully hydrated. Make sure you're having fun in life. Don't make it such an obsession. And, you know, where this can really come into play is, you know, one part of the vegan movement is, you know, are the raw foodists. And I know that being high raw is really great for me. I've done that. And right now I'm a little bit less raw than I have been in the past. But at sometimes I got so obsessed with it, like, oh my goodness, am I at 90% of my food from raw foods or 90% of my calories from raw foods or what. You can get a little obsessed with that. And there are people in the movement too that I'd really like to get back to my first point, which is to be coachable but not gullible. Somebody might say 100% raw is the absolute best, and raw is the law, but that may not work for you, even if that's actually true, which I'm not sure it is. I mean, I think the jury's still out on that, and we need to have like a lot of people who've actually done the lifestyle for their entire lives, and then they die, and we, the scientists, do the autopsies and find out. I mean, we just maybe don't know. But regardless of whether it is quote unquote the optimal diet or whatever, you know where you're at, and you know what your willingness to do the research is. And I think that can be a point of obsession, finding that optimal diet and saying, I must do this no matter what, even if some part of yourself is not ready. When I gave up dairy, before I even went vegan, I had gone high raw, and I really actually largely gave up dairy. But one thing that kept me going was I really liked having feta cheese with pasta. And I was high raw and that type of thing, but somehow that just kept me going psychologically. And, somebody could have come to me and said, well, that's not vegan, and that's not the healthiest thing, that's too salty or whatever. But for whatever reason, that allowed me to really follow the rest of the diet pretty darn well. And so looking back and where I'm at today, it's like I don't need feta cheese. I don't need cheese of any sort. And I don't miss it. I mean, it's not something I fight or crave or anything like that. It's just part of my path. But had I really insisted on to myself that I go 100% raw at that time, or I don't eat any dairy, even though I had already achieved the great health benefits of largely giving it up, and then also from a ethical standpoint, I was largely not feeding into an economic system that really is not the best for the animals. I probably made it possible for me to go vegan completely at a later stage. So again, your path may look like different than someone else's, but part of what can be really motivating is to do the research. Go figure out, well, from a health perspective and for an